the Allegheny County Council of, I'm sorry, wrong committee. I am part of the Allegheny County Council of Republican Women. I'm the chair. And with us, we also have Stephanie and Brittany, who are also on the committee. We are with Danny DeVito. He is our special guest today. And I'm sorry, before we get started, I would like everyone to keep their mics on mute. And if you have any questions for Danny, please make sure you submit them in the chat. So Danny, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your campaign. What's going on?
Well, sure, Michelle. As you know, I'm running for State House of Representatives in the 45th District. That's Carnegie up to Coraopolis, Robinson, across the river to Emsworth, a lot of the surrounding boroughs. I don't want to list all of them for fear of missing one. But, you know, we're running a campaign to take out Anita Kulik, who's the current incumbent. And we're doing this, I say, for three main reasons. The first reason is that we have a mayor of Pittsburgh who declared war on the natural gas industry. We have a governor now who not only declared war on the natural gas industry, but who now shut down our entire state. We have a lieutenant governor who's a socialist, and Anita Kulik is their girl in Western Pennsylvania. She takes her orders from Wolf. She does whatever Wolf tells her to do. And we need a candidate, and we need a representative in the 45th District who's going to stand up for Western Pennsylvania, who's not going to sit by and allow a severance tax on our industry that gives jobs to so many people in my district, whether it's petrochemicals up in Beaver County that they're commuting to or down to the oil fields, and all of the businesses that come along with it. Number two, we need a representative who is going to stand up for those conservative values that our district shares. Pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, somebody who's really going to stand up for these values and not just give lip service and then vote the way the party whip tells them to. We need a strong conservative who's going to represent this district, and I believe that I'm the person to do that. And then the third issue that we talk about is property tax reform. We've been hearing about it for a long, long time, and it hasn't happened. So our plan would be to take 10% of current sin taxes, no new taxes, but 10% of what's already going to the government from alcohol, gambling. That was promised to property tax relief, and that's where it should go, and that should be written into the law. But right now, our campaign is kind of taking a shift due to the shutdown. So I've been at the forefront of fighting Governor Wolf's business shutdown. I was the first candidate or incumbent in the state to stand up to Governor Wolf and come out against the business shutdown, even before it became popular. I'm somebody, I think that, I just had a gut feeling about that, and I think that we need somebody who had the guts to stand up to the governor and isn't going to be his lackey and invite him to Carnegie to introduce new severance taxes. So that's why I'm running, and, we've gotten a lot of support, and I hope to continue to represent the people of the 45th District well, not only now during the campaign, but starting in Harrisburg next year after November.
That's great. Danny, like you've been saying, we've been seeing so much of you just on Facebook, on social media, in the news. You're taking action during the shutdown. You're starting conversations for these hardworking men and women. So tell us just a little bit more about what you're doing in the community during the shutdown.
Well, first of all, we filed a lawsuit against Governor Wolf. We were the lead petitioner of, it was ourselves and then 4 other businesses, real estate agent, golf course, laundromat. And we sued the governor in the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. And we argued, first of all, he was incompetent with how he rolled out the shutdown. He shut down businesses after 5 o'clock. People had no idea how to take action. They had to let employees know after business hours. Then some businesses were on the list, some were off the list. Nobody knew what was going on. But then once we got over that initial chaos, we started looking at the issue very closely. And it was our position that he does not have the statutory authority to just shut everything down indefinitely. And by the way, now John Fetterman was just on TV, socialist John Fetterman, saying, we don't know if we're even going to open up. He was on national TV saying that. So I'm happy I took that stand against the governor. And I also believe that his actions were unconstitutional under the federal constitution and also under the state constitution. He took people's property without compensation. He denied due process rights. He's ruling by executive fiat rather than listening to the will of the people. And now, as he even talks about reopening, instead of listening to the elected legislature of this state, he's taking orders from Cuomo, he's taking orders from Massachusetts, and he's leaving Western Pennsylvania in the dust because the Philadelphia money interests that back him told him to do so. Now, how does that translate locally? Anita Kulik does what Governor Wolf tells her to do. And so she's voting for Eastern Pennsylvania, Philadelphia interests rather than Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh interests. And we need someone who's going to stand up for us here. So that's what I've been up to. We've been fighting in the courts. I've been talking with organizers of the protests, and we've just been making as much noise as possible. Not so much for our campaign, although I do believe my free speech rights and equal protection under the law was violated. But I have a platform to help business owners, and I'm going to do that.
That's awesome. So a lot of the questions we did receive are a lot about the quarantine, a lot about COVID-19. So for the folks that are not familiar with SB 613, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is and the actions you've been taking towards it?
Senate Bill 613 was a bill that recently passed the Pennsylvania House of Representatives and the Pennsylvania Senate, and it went to the governor, who said he's going to veto it. This bill would have allowed businesses to begin reopening, and it wouldn't have been a free-for-all. There still would have been measures taken to mitigate the effects of COVID-19. It would have been in line with CDC guidelines, federal guidelines, and it would have brought Pennsylvania into line with other states. For example, many people saw the video I did with a local real estate broker, and we explained a lot of how it affected real estate in there. And real estate's considered essential in neighboring states, with certain precautions that would be taken. This bill would have allowed realtors to reopen. However, my opponent, Anita Kulik, voted against Senate Bill 613. She voted to keep Pennsylvania closed. The very next day, after the video blast went out with me and the real estate broker, she flip-flops and says, I'm going to support a bill to allow real estate agents to reopen. We did that. That was pressure from our campaign, and that was pressure from hardworking men and women across this district. And even, with Senate Bill 613, we need the governor to sign that immediately. We cannot clown around anymore. Pennsylvania needs to reopen. And it was so important because to me it was a litmus test whether people stand up for small businesses in Western Pennsylvania, in Allegheny County, in the 45th District, or whether they take their marching orders from Philadelphia elite interests. And that's why I was so angry and upset about Anita's vote against Senate Bill 613. And if people go to my Facebook or YouTube channel, there's a video on there I have explaining in detail how Senate Bill 613 was so important to the people of this district.
Right. Now, do you think the government should use threat of violence to shut down businesses?
Absolutely not. And that's what the government did in this case. They used the threat of violence to shut down businesses. The far left is all about violence and coercion. When they're not in power, you see Antifa in the street rioting, burning cars, smashing business windows. When they are in power, they use the threat of, the police power of the state, not the hardworking men and women of law enforcement. I'm referring to the power of the state to enact laws and enforce order, but they abuse the police power of the state. They told business owners, you shut down or we're going to fine you. We're going to put you in jail. It's nanny state tactics taken to the extreme. Right. So absolutely not. I do not believe the government should use violence to shut down businesses. The government should be using violence in a way to get rid of, opium dealers and things like that. They should be arresting these people, not clearing out the jails to make room for hardworking business owners. So to the person that asked that, no, I don't believe the government should use state violence to coerce business owners. Absolutely not.
And what do you believe will happen if the COVID guidelines are extended through May?
I think people are going to start reopening businesses. Many local businesses have said, we're reopening May 1st. Neighboring states are reopening May 1st. Pennsylvania is a large state. Part of Pennsylvania borders New York and New Jersey. Part of Pennsylvania borders West Virginia and Ohio. We're over here closer to West Virginia and Ohio. We should be opening up regionally in conformity with those states because our needs are so different than the needs of Philadelphia. So if we continue until May 15th or even later, because Fetterman's now talking about later, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think it will be a good result. Right. I just saw a famous hot dog shop in Oakmont or Oakland is closing permanently. So we're going to be seeing a lot of small businesses close, and that's going to be laid at the feet of the governor, and it's going to be laid at the feet of Fetterman, and it's going to be laid at the feet of Anita Kulik, and somebody needs to hold them accountable for their actions.
Right. And another question we had about COVID is, can the state of Pennsylvania be held accountable for our loss of business with the forced shutdown and the failure to implement the CARE Act?
That's what's so dangerous when you elect somebody. When you elect somebody, they have a certain immunity to some of their actions. However, we can hold officials accountable by voting out their people. I believe that the legislature should be taking a really strong look at taking action against Governor Wolf and Lieutenant Governor Fetterman. At the very least, I support the action of the General Assembly coming together to declare an end to the emergency situation, or at least using that threat to get Wolf to open up. I believe that we have a lot of people in power who are put there. They're unelected, they're bureaucrats. So there's ways to hold people accountable. Number one, voting, of course. Vote for DeVito and vote for other candidates that are going to throw out these people that don't follow our interests. And we can also use our voices. Social media, I believe, is very powerful. There's protests going on Monday and in different places. So we need to hold them accountable. As to what form that takes, it depends on where we are. If you're in an elected office, which I am not yet, you could use your office to help hold the governor accountable. If you're not, there's still different steps that you could take. Use your voice, spread the word, and get involved.
Right. So I know I don't have kids, but a lot of my friends have kids and they're home right now. How do you feel about the governor prematurely closing the schools for the rest of the year?
The governor did that in, to be blunt, a very stupid way, because he made that decision before we even knew what the rest of the year was going to look like. He should have said, you know what, schools are closed until April 15th, April 20th, May 1st, and then we'll take another look at it. To just cancel school before knowing what's going to happen, that was not a very wise decision. And to me, Democrats always want to talk about privilege. Oh, certain people are privileged. Well, Governor Wolf's the one coming from a place of privilege, because there's a lot of kids that need to be in school. They rely on school for meals. They rely on schools for a safe place to be. Parents who need to work now essentially have been reduced to one-income households. Some households need two incomes. So he doesn't care about the working class of Pennsylvania. And so his decision to just arbitrarily close schools across the board before taking a look at it. Now, maybe it would have had to be done. I don't know. I don't think so, because we're not seeing the numbers add up. But to just do it before even looking at the data, for someone who talks about science so much, it doesn't make any sense. And again, it just shows, I don't think he's competent. I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Right. Now, kind of a switch to the economy. How do you think we will overcome the economic depression and dependency of our government after this?
Well, that's going to be the major challenge, because the government has forced us into a place where businesses, we're waiting for loans and waiting for, different programs. But this was created, artificially. This was an artificial creation. So we're going to really need strong people in government, in the legislature, that are going to get us back to having free enterprise within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Governor Wolf unrolled his plan today, and buried within there, he wants a $15 minimum wage. He wants all of these extra things that have nothing to do with COVID-19. So the Democrats are using this as an opportunity to push their radical agenda. And by the way, the agenda of the Democrats now is not the agenda of your father's or your grandfather's Democratic Party. It's the agenda of radicals. My opponent, Anita Kulik, she voted lockstep with Sarah Innamorato, with Summer Lee, with the Democratic Socialists of America. We have a socialist as lieutenant governor. These people want full government control. So we are going to need to really use our voices and fight back strongly, and not just say, oh, well, we'll meet you in the middle on this. No, you're not going to let the government take over our businesses, and we're not going to let you do that. But it's going to take people rising up.
Yeah. So what do you think the biggest concern with the policies being implemented by Governor Wolf are, and how can they be addressed?
You said the biggest problems?
Yes, the biggest concerns and problems.
My biggest concern right now is first of all, we need to get people back to work immediately. That's the most pressing concern, short term. Long term is the precedent this sets. Every time we have something like this, is the government going to come in and shut down? Now, if they could do it for something like COVID-19, gradually they'll start taking it, these steps for smaller problems. They're not going to stop with just, disease. They're going to say, oh, well, we have this other problem going on. So we're going to use the precedent that was established, during COVID-19, now for this. And they'll keep taking and taking and taking. And that's why we need to say no. And that's why, I was disappointed with some people, even on our side, who didn't stand up early on, because look at the situation we're in now.
Right. Well, Danny, thank you so much for those answers to all the COVID questions.
You're welcome.
Myself and others appreciate you being our voice in these trying times. We very much appreciate it. But moving on, we do have some other questions from a few of our viewers. This one comes from an online submission. Some said that we should sign a petition for the Green Party to get on the ballot. They believe it will take votes away from Democrats. Well, I see this as a point. I don't know what would be a good idea either. I feel like it's opening the door for more trouble down the road. What do you think?
So to give people some background on that, for Republicans and Democrats to get on the ballot for state representative, for example, you need 300 signatures minimum. Really more than that in case some are not proper. For third party and independent candidates, they have a petition period that's later in the year from Democrats and from Republicans. And they have larger signature requirements, based, I don't know the exact algorithm, but it's based on the percentage of votes their party got the last time, or for independents, it might be close to 1,000. Again, I'm not 100% sure on the numbers. However, their petition period that they should be preparing for and engaging in now, they are not allowed to do because the governor shut down, campaigns. Campaigns are not allowed to physically function right now.
Right.
So that petition was essentially saying, it's not their fault that they can't petition. It's Governor Wolf's fault. I am a fan of ballot access because I think sometimes third parties can keep us honest. And it doesn't just benefit Republicans with the Green Party. I mean, sometimes it hurts Republicans with the Libertarians. I mean, you look at the Kentucky governor. I mean, we would have the governorship of Kentucky if it wasn't for the Libertarian challenger, probably. That being said, there is a petition going around to allow the Green Party on the ballot. And I feel like that was asked because there's a Green candidate running in the 45th district against Anita Kulik. If it causes Anita Kulik problems down the road, as far as I'm concerned, that's not my problem. And I don't think it's going to cause us problems having the Green Party on the ballot. So, let's let the voters decide. I'm not a fan of the governor of the government picking winners and losers. Let's let the people decide.
Right. So another question we have is, how did Anita Kulik vote on oil and gas industry?
Anita Kulik is a flip-flopper. Like I said, she flip-flopped on the real estate just 2 days ago. Just look at Facebook. You'll see her statement on there right after my great video with the real estate broker went out. So Anita Kulik invited Governor Wolf to Carnegie to announce the severance tax. He announced that program at the library on the Hill in Carnegie with her standing by his side, introducing him. So she was obviously okay with his program with a severance tax then. Then I went on for my announcement on KDKA and I said, look, she's for a severance tax. I'm against a severance tax. I'm pro-industry. They asked her about that. And then she said, I have the same position as Danny DeVito. And then, the Green Party announced, well, if that's your position, maybe we'll challenge you. And then, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to vote in favor of the natural gas industry. She can't be trusted on the issue. She flip-flops back and forth. She was for the severance tax. She'll vote the way Governor Wolf tells her to. I'll vote on behalf of our workers in the natural gas industry. And those are good union jobs. It's family-sustaining union jobs, and that's what we need in the district. So Anita Kulik can't be trusted on natural gas. I will be a strong voice for our natural gas industry. I don't just want to protect it. I want to expand it.
Good. So one of the questions we have from our chats from Rico. How do you feel about the protest in Pittsburgh on Monday? Do you feel this is going to increase the spread of the virus and gridlock the streets in emergency situations?
I am in support of the protests that's going to be happening in Pittsburgh on Monday. I will be there. I plan on bringing people with me. I don't think it's going to cause gridlock. Nothing's going on down there anyway. And again, these are not rabble rousers. These are law-abiding business owners who just want to get back to work. So I endorse the protest that's going to be happening not only in Pittsburgh, but also in Harrisburg. And the people I know that are going are respectful, and they're exercising their First Amendment rights. And I'm supportive of that.
Perfect. So we actually don't have any more questions. We do have one more question to go, but before I end the questions, is there any questions anyone has for Danny?
I'm seeing that there's several questions in the chat from Brittany.
Brittany, can we unmute Brittany and have her go through some of these questions?
Am I unmuted?
Hi, Brittany.
Hi. Okay, so in the chat, the first question that was asked was related to, there's talk of COVID-19 continuing to be an issue this fall. Danny, do you have any thoughts on that, or what you might propose to do should that become a narrative or a possibility for us?
Sure. Well, first of all, it may become an issue in the fall. I don't know if it's going to be an issue yet. Part of that was caused because the government flattened the curve so much that it's now going to continue. I mean, there's several doctors that know how to explain this. The curve, would have been above medical capacity. Now it's been flattened so much, but when you flatten it, it extends the time of the outbreak. So I would have public health professionals in place now, ready to deal with that without having to shut everything down. It's all about being prepared and having smart people around you. And that's what I would encourage the governor to do. Dr. Levine, from my understanding, is not a specialist in infectious disease. She's not a public health professional. He doesn't know what they're doing. And, I would have people around me that know what they're doing. And you need experts in place. Yeah, she's a pediatrician. Thank you, Dr. Fennell. And we need people who know what they're doing, business owners. I would have a panel of business owners, business people, doctors, and public health officials. This is a public health crisis. It's not having to do with individual treatment. So that's how I would address that. But we don't know how big of an issue it's going to be.
Okay, great. And so the next question we have is from John Waugh, and he's running also for a state rep position. And he asks, have you read the letter sent from Speaker Turzai to the Secretary of Health about sharing the data about where the deaths from COVID-19 are occurring, also the recovery rate of COVID-19?
I didn't get a chance to read the entire letter yet. However, I would back that. I think that the Secretary of Health needs to release this data. And why don't they want to? I mean, if we're all supposed to be prepared for this crisis, why hasn't it been released?
Okay, great. And you did already answer the question about how you felt about the protest. And I think that's all the questions from the chat, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to ask on either the chat or over voice.
I see Franklin Hughes has asked.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes, Franklin Hughes is asking, what are your thoughts on the rise of the medicalization of issues in politics?
Well, that's an interesting question because, to a certain extent, doctors have a very profound responsibility, and I have a lot of respect for medical professionals, but they are not experts on the economy necessarily. They're not experts on public health necessarily. So they need to begin working in, conjunction with everybody else on this. This is an issue that has medical implications, certainly, but it goes far beyond that. And, just to have a certain class of professionals that, has say over the entirety of the population, I don't know what good precedent that sets. And, I've had many doctors agree with me on that. We have a doctor, here in the district who's very active. He's active in the chat right now. We have a doctor in Philadelphia who reached out to our campaign. I'm meeting with the doctor on Monday. And that's right, Dr. Fennell is a public health doctor. And, so we need people who know what they're doing, but we also need people who recognize the limitations of their expertise.
Okay, great. And I do have one more question that I missed up again, but Pat LaGuardia has been gracious enough to repost it. And he asks, there is also talk of mail-in only ballots for the November election being considered. Would like your opinion on the legalities of that constitutionally and the dangers it could open up to voter fraud.
I have to take a look at the legalities of it, but I am totally against mail-in ballots. The potential for fraud is immense. First of all, I'm for people having to show some form of ID when they go to vote. But mail-in ballots, I mean, the potential for not only ballot harvesting, but flat out fraud is so great. And that's why they're trying to do it now in the primary. They want a mail-in primary so then they can say, oh, well, we did it during the primary. Let's do it during November. And I'm just warning everyone now, if that happens, Republicans are going to have big, big problems in November. So we need to stand up against that. I have grave concerns about mail-in voting. There's going to be massive fraud, as Dave Gehring just said. Yes, I agree with that.
All right, and we do have another question that's come up. It's from Bob, and he asks, Anita has been at this for almost 20 years. First as an assistant to Nick Kotick, then Kennedy Township Commissioner. What other events, communications, and plans do you have to win? Kulik is everywhere in publications, Montour School District, communities everywhere.
Anita Kulik, I respectfully must disagree, is not everywhere. When I go door to door, people don't know who the hell she is half the time. She's active in her little circles, and I'm going to represent the entirety of the 45th district. My plan to win, I wish I could be knocking on doors. I want to go door to door. I want to talk to everybody in the 45th district. I'm going to be hitting independents, Democrats, Republicans. You know, we're going to be hitting everybody. I've been in a lot of publications myself, you know, all over the district. I'm going to go to every single municipality in the district. I've been meeting people. You know, and just because somebody's been in something for 20 years, I mean, if you're doing something wrong for 20 years, then we need to stop that. We need to start doing it the right way, you know, and I have a problem with that. So she was the assistant to her predecessor. You know, we need new blood in there. We need new people in there with new ideas. And, you know, I'm not someone that thinks that just because something's always been done one way, that it has to keep being done that way. Just because somebody, you know, was in there with the powers that be before, you know, history has many examples of new people coming in, and that's going to be me.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Brittany, for going through that and reading everyone's questions.
Of course.
So my final question, which is my favorite question to ask, is from Meredith. The question is, what would be your first piece of legislation?
My very first piece of legislation, you know, I have a lot of priorities, so I'd like to get working on all of them right away. But I mean, I would have to wait until I get there to see at that time what has the most traction. You know, I'm very conservative, but I'm also a pragmatist in that I will look at what needs to be done at that time, and then I will begin working on that. You know, when this campaign first started, for example, our number one issue was natural gas, and that's still an extremely important issue for us. But right now I'm focusing on the business shutdown. So I can't say what's going to be the most pressing need, you know, months from now. You know, but like I said in the beginning, I mean, all of those things that I talked about, we're going to be working on. And I actually saw something in the chat from Rico, who's also running up in Beaver County, and it goes down to, you know, some communities bordering mine. He asked my views on criminal justice reform. And I want to take this opportunity to say that I support a state level First Step Act. President Trump passed the First Step Act. He pushed it through Congress. I want a state level version of the First Step Act here in Pennsylvania, because people deserve, in my opinion, if they're good people, a second chance. I support prosecuting the hell out of, you know, people that bring heroin into our state, people that are bringing fentanyl into the state. Violent criminals, you know, we need to make sure these people are kept off the street permanently. They're not going back. But people that make a mistake, they need to have the opportunity to go back and have a job. They need the opportunity. A marijuana conviction from when you're 20 years old should not follow you for your entire life. People change, and we need that First Step Act here on the state level that I support.
Great. Danny, is there anything else you want to share with us before we end the town hall?
You know, I just want to thank everybody for all the support. You know, I get a lot of credit for being the first one in the state to stand up to Governor Wolf, but really, I would say that the people of the district are what keeps me going. It's pressure from business owners, it's pressure from union workers, it's pressure from just everyday people, real estate agents, brokers that are keeping us going. So I truly appreciate all of the support we've received. I have a great team. You know, Brittany has done a great job helping us out. Rocco has done a great job helping us out almost every day. You know, attorney Sean Logue has done a great job helping us out of Logue Law Group, SeanLogueLaw.com. He's done a great job. So, you know, there's so many people that are helping out our campaign, and most importantly, the people of the 45th district. So from the bottom of my heart, our campaign's heart, we say thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much for Danny for being here. Thank you for fighting for us. And we wish you the best of luck on your campaign. We'll be right there with you the whole time, okay?
All right, thanks, Michelle, and
Thank
thanks for
you.
hosting this, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you, guys.